2 days ago, we were down in Waterford, and we were doing a little procession from the town square and down to the Waterford parish with a statue of Our Lady and many of the people from around the area and from the parish. Before the procession began, I was talking to a man, Anthony Devi, who was in the conversation. At one point he said, I don't know how it came out. I think it was someone who asked him, like, how are you doing? Just like a typical, how are things going, this type of thing. But his response is one that I actually never heard before. And it actually threw me off because I actually didn't catch what he meant by it. So he said, how you doing? He says, well, I'm still on this side of the sod. I didn't catch it. I actually went up to him and I was like, Anthony, what does that mean? Like, I'm still on this side of the sod. So he like pointed down at the grass, at the green grass that was at our feet. He's like, you see this grass? This is also called sod. And I was like, oh yeah. Well, I'm still on this side of it. Like I'm not underneath it yet. I was like, oh, okay. When they explain things, it kind of like ruins it. But it was, I like the expression. I'm still on this side of the sod. Liturgically, we're still in the aftermath of the Feast of the Most Holy Trinity. So most of the time, many times within the church, there's certain feasts that they're so important that we continue to think about them for a while. So even though it's past, so to speak, the Feast of the Most Holy Trinity, we should still be thinking about it. There's the phrase of a theologian who says that a person is all the more alive in the degree that he is united to the three divine persons. Even liturgically, a priest always has the option not only to preach about the scriptures of the day, he can also always preach about the scriptures from the previous Sunday. It's always one of the options so that he can continue to reflect. So if he has a lot to say, he doesn't actually have to say absolutely everything in the Sunday homily. He can continue and preach about it up to 7 times more. I was thinking about this phrase of I'm still on this side of the sod, and I was reflecting on how the entire life of a Christian, the entire sense of a Christian is to become a father. The whole life of a Christian is to arrive at becoming a son. Our whole life we're supposed to become love. It's it's one of these things that's kind of like we don't, because a lot of times you think about, the Most Holy Trinity, so we have to understand this. I think it's always funny because that's a rabbit hole. You're not going to understand it. I mean, it's good to reflect on it, but the idea of reflecting isn't just to bing. It's not to have a light bulb moment. The purpose of reflecting is supposed to bring us to become what we should be, to love. There's a phrase from the book of Sirach. It's in chapter 11. I would actually prefer someone to actually read the whole chapter, but it's verse 28 in case someone's going to look it up. There it says that, call no man happy until the day of his death. A man will be known by his children. I want to relate this with the phrase of Anthony Devi. He says, I'm still on this side of the sod. It's also a way of saying, I can still love more. I'm not dead yet. It's also an important way of saying what comes out in the gospel, because many of the first will be last and many of the last will be first. In other words, if I'm still on this side of the sod, I can still screw everything up. There's the phrase of St. Teresa. She says, I feel that I am a ship weighed down with gold and in danger of sinking. In other words, she just wants to arrive in to the port, unload the gold, make a lot of money, and everything's solved. But we're not there yet. I'm not yet on that side of the sod. And in the same way, it's a reflection of this phrase also, in my opinion, helps to understand what it means to be happy. Call no man happy to the day of his death. A man is known by his children, through his children. In other words, our life is supposed to be in such a way, it's supposed to be so become an act of love in such a way that the thing we live for is our children. That's what it means to be a father. I mean, a father isn't just thinking about himself. A father, in the truest sense, is one who lives for his children. I find it fascinating on this same score how David, even though he like did a lot of conquests, got his 200 Philistines to marry his wife, how he conquered Goliath, how he took down bears and lions as a shepherd. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah. But the feat that he did at the end of his life, that was the highest thing, was precisely crying for his son Absalom. That scene when, he's a kick-ass fighter, he's amazing, he like jumps over, he like takes people down, but the high moment isn't it's when he cries. It's when he cares so much about his son, when he had become a father. In other words, on the pinnacle, the high point, the summit of David is when he becomes a dad, in the deepest sense. And when reflecting on the phrase, like, as he will be known by his children, the child, helps to understand the father. And if you know the father, you know the son. Isn't it such an honor for David, like now, from heaven, looking back and saying, isn't it cool for me that Jesus is called Son of David? It must be something for him, such an honor to think that I be in any way associated with Jesus Christ, but to say that my love for Absalom was such that it showed the love of the Father, and that it showed what type of son was worth crying for in that way. This phrase also has a way of looking at it, a third way of looking at it, is that call no man happy before he dies, the Father will be known through his children, is also a way for us to reflect when we say that phrase, I'm still on this side of the sod. It's also a way for us to reflect on long term, last judgment. In other words, the way we live now has a domino effect on absolutely everyone else in the future. It's one of those things we don't think about enough. In other words, while I'm still alive, things can be put in motion. But on the end, the things I do will affect others, and that'll affect others. And on the day of judgment, you'll be like, you'll be looking around, and as Jesus says, that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. That there might be others who have been influenced by you in such a way that they are, as St. Paul says, my crown and my glory. In other words, we're supposed to live in such a way that we're passing on our life to our sons. That we're giving good examples in such a way that there will be others who are living the way we hope to live as well. The Lord we hope to live. In other words, in the day of judgment, you want to be like, okay, you're about to be judged, but you're surrounded by a lot of people who are vouching for you. By children, by your crown. The term crown in Hebrew actually means the people who are surrounding you. To finish and given a last idea on what it means to, like, I'm still on this side of the sod, I want to, because we're in the green time of the year, it actually is like ordinary time. And I want to end by saying, An example of this is St. Patrick. If you go to the north of Ireland, you can find where used to be the tomb of St. Patrick. Now it's been moved. Now it's in a different spot now. But where his tomb was first buried, they actually did excavations around it, and they wanted to see, the surrounding areas. They actually they couldn't excavate. They couldn't go down because as soon as they put like the shovel, as soon as they started to dig, it was filled with bones and skulls, and each of them was so close together that there wasn't dirt. There's just tons of people. Why? Because anyone who was half intelligent said, look, I want to be buried close to St. Patrick. I've done the same thing. Yes, bury me there. Why? Because we know that the bones will rise, that the dead will rise. And on that day, I don't know about you, but I want to be close to people like St. Patrick. So what happens when they actually weren't able to bury? They weren't able to look at it. It was like, okay, that's a bone, that's a bone, that's a skull, that's a skull, that's a skull. Okay, not gonna bury there. But notice how St. Patrick is precisely, call no man happy till the day of his death. I'm still on this side of the sod. Our goal is to be, when we arrive to the other side of the sod, to have many children. And that's what St. Patrick did. He was a true father, and because of that, his children wanted to be around him. Just like Jacob in the Old Testament. When we leave Egypt, bring my bones out of here. So we can ask the Lord that as we continue in this ordinary time, that we may look at the color green and think, Jesus, I thank you for still being on this side of the sod. May I live it so that when I'm under the sod, I may be fruitful, that I may have many who want to be close to me because I've lived like a father.